My name is Tim Daniel, and welcome to another fantastic edition of Late Night Reds Talk here on the Riverfront, your Sunday night thing that gets you going to get you ready for the work week. I'm so excited for this week's episode because I have a good buddy on the show. If you're on Twitter, you probably know this guy. He's a great Twitter follow. Or if you walk around the ballpark, you probably see him quite a bit wearing jerseys of Reds players that probably played less than a cup of coffee, maybe a sip of coffee, and if we're using the metaphor. This is, of course, you can check him out on Twitter at ObscureXReds. This is Ken Huber. Thanks for taking some time to hang out with me tonight, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Good to talk to you again, Tim.
So I want to kind of tell the story real quick about I met Ken. This was last year at a game. I was with Nick. It was a Saturday afternoon game against the Pirates. You did the national anthem that day, and that was the day I met you.
I did. I'm in a quartet. I sing in a barbershop quartet, and every year for the past probably 15 years or so, the Reds will have us down for a game. And so we have a blast doing it.
Yeah, it was actually a Pirates game where Connor Overton looked good. So it just kind of shows you the rarity of what that day was. So that's pretty cool.
That does narrow it down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, perfect. So before we do kind of get into some conversation here, obviously the reason we have Ken on today is the classic Obscure X Reds Twitter account, which is an awesome follow. Anytime I see some random Reds jersey at the ballpark, I make sure I have to get it to him. Shout out to Brian Reith jersey I saw on opening day. You know who you are.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah, you know who you are. I don't know who you are, but I saw your jersey and it looks great. So how did you kind of come up with this idea for this really fun Twitter account?
So this started back in college with buddies, and we'd start naming obscure former Reds, and the guy who couldn't come up with one had to buy the next hot dog or next beer. And this was back in the days of the Scott Winchesters were the ones we were trying to name. And no, Steven, I don't. Not tonight.
I don't either.
Yeah. And just sitting with friends, it's something fun to talk about, okay, who remembers that guy? And I had a Twitter account under my own name, and you can find me at Kenneth Huber, but I don't tweet a lot from there. I mostly use that for just news and business stuff to follow my profession. But I was like, screw it, let's do an Obscure X Reds account and start tweeting that stuff. And in the last 5 or 6 years, I've grown to 36 or so hundred followers, and I appreciate every single one of you. The interactions every day are awesome, so keep them coming. Please follow, like, and share. It's so much fun doing it because it's Matt Maloney started following me. He and I share a birthday, which is kind of fun. Jason Romano follows me, so it's just you tweet some of these guys and you'll find their Twitter account and tag them, and I hope they appreciate it because it's all done in love. It's all done to respect the people who grind in the minors, and they don't get the love. They might only get a cup of coffee. So it's all done out of love and respect for those players who spend so much time in the minors, and they don't get the recognition that other players get. And it's fun. And side note, I also got into it because when I started getting into jerseys, their jerseys were significantly less expensive at the Team Pro Shop. The very first one I ever bought was from a Red Silent auction in 2002, a John Riedling jersey.
Nice.
So the next year at Reds Fest, I wore my John Riedling jersey to Reds Fest, and he was on the panel for Reds Jeopardy. So I stood up and I flaunted my John Riedling jersey, and he's like, I got to take that guy. Each celebrity on the panel picked a fan to come up and play Jeopardy with them. So I got to go up and play with John Riedling. He was not the most versed in Reds history at the time. He was probably 26, and I'm 22. So, but it's a good time. I've started. I get them in grab bags all the time. They do the grab bags on opening day. They do the grab bags which guarantee you a jersey at Reds Fest. So I'm always willing to invest in those. I've found them from, shout out to Callie and the Sports Gallery. I bought a couple from them. Find them on eBay. I probably have 30 old jerseys that are either team issued, game used, or team issued or game used authentic jerseys. So it's a lot of fun. They're in my closet. My wife just rolls her eyes at the next one I buy at this point. She's grizzled.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, like I said, it's a lot of fun hanging out with you. It is a lot of fun talking this stuff with you. I bumped into you at Reds Fest this year. We got to catch up a bit, but we're going to get into a very fun segment later. I know that they advertised already on the Riverfront this week. So let's go ahead and talk about some not so fun stuff to get it out of the way. And that was the week that was. And oh boy, what a week. So starting with Monday.
Pain.
Derek Law throws one pitch and gets beat by the Braves. Luis Cessa on Tuesday is not good. That's a theme. Wednesday, Hunter Green was pretty good. He was pretty good. No homers, 10 strikeouts.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm really been impressed with Hunter Green.
Me too.
His fly ball rate is way, way down. One of the things I noticed this week looking into that is his line drive rate is up, which is weird. He's given up fewer fly balls, but a lot more line drives. So that kind of supports his super inflated BABIP, batting average of balls in play.
Yeah, it's like 455.
Yeah, it's so crazy high, and it's frustrating, but the hard hit contact supports it. So he's getting a little unlucky at 455, but I ran some numbers, and I'll spare you the details, but his hard hit rate, his expected BABIP comes out to 369, which is still pretty high. So he has given up a little hard hit contact, but he makes up for it with Ks. He's striking out 14 something batters per 9 innings. Yeah. So you can get out of a lot of sticky situations when you give up hit walk or hit, and now you strike out the side. So I mean, he's going to get better. You saw what he did last year from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and his first 3 starts this year are miles ahead of where he was last year. So yeah, he's going to get better. He's still the youngest player on the team, if not one of them. So he's 23 or something. He's going to get better. He's younger than Nick Lodolo. Yeah, a couple of years. I agree. Yeah. I'm very high on Hunter Green. I think that like I said, the BABIP was something I was going to bring up, so I'm glad you did. To kind of talk about the conversation we had there, and yeah, I think that the strikeouts are huge. I think, like you said, he has definitely been a little unlucky, but I'm still very high. I have not lost. If anyone who's trying to complain, the people who are like say nice things about Lodolo and Ashcraft, but find a way in that same point to say something negative about Hunter Green really upset me, because I don't think it's fair. And honestly, Hunter Green's going to be just fine. Trust me, just fine. Go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, his game log to remind, because it was last fall. His game log to end the year, his last 5 or 6 starts was, forgive me as I pull it up. His ERA was about 2. His slugging was in the 300s against him. His last starts. An OPS against of 474, an ERA of 102. His last 6 starts. So we know what Hunter Green can do, and he's going to get back there. He's still learning this, and I'll get into this a little more later. As much as it's going to be a kick in the butt to Reds fans, this season isn't about winning. It's unfortunate and it sucks, but it's about learning what you have with your players. And they're going to learn about Hunter Green, and Hunter Green's going to learn about himself. So on the very next line, we're going to learn about what we've learned about Spencer Steer. And so let's segue into that. Is on Thursday, Spencer Steer is a dude.
Yes, he is.
He's. I've got a 10 spot. I've got a 10 spot on him to win Rookie of the Year at plus 2,500. Those odds have come significantly down, and they're going to come down as he gets better. So go out to whatever your betting site of choice is and hit Spencer Steer for Rookie of the Year.
I agree. So I want to make sure I shout out Joseph Gattaca, good friend of the program. Said he's sick of the National League East already. Partner, I am with you.
Yes.
I am with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like Ken said, so Spencer Steer on Thursday continues to be awesome. Nick Lodolo also very good in that game. I just did not have the space to type it up. And I feel like me saying Nick Lodolo rules is going to be a theme for, the whole season and the next at least 6 years. Friday, they obviously take a butt kicking from the Phillies. It's the first game really all year they're not in. You know what I mean? Like it was like they've had losses, but they've all been really close games. Like you look at those Braves games, are all 1-run losses.
Even the Cubs lost a week and a half ago. They were in it until the 6th when the bullpen melted down. They were up 3-1 in the 6th, and the bullpen melts down. And when you have the guys the Reds have, the bullpen is gonna melt down some. And they need to invest, and everyone knows that they need to invest so we won't beat that dead horse.
Yes, absolutely. So Saturday is obviously the Will Myers coming out party. 2 homers, 5 RBI, 4 runs scored. And Graham Ashcraft was incredible. Was absolutely awesome.
Well, and to show how good Ashcraft and Lodolo are, neither had their best stuff.
Yeah.
On Thursday, Lodolo only struck out 6. Only, and he was a little wild, but still shut down the Phillies pretty well. Ashcraft didn't have great stuff, and he still pitched a shutout for 6 innings. I'm so pumped for these guys.
Me too, man. It's nice. It's just so nice to have those guys. And then there's today, which, as we all know, when it's 9-0 before you get an at bat, it's a sign. The Reds lose today 14-3 to the Phillies. So if you take the the first inning out, they only lose like 5-3. So
there you go.
Yeah.
If only we could do that.
Yeah. But Ken, I will say, if there's any positivity of today, and this is scraping the barrel of positivity, Nick Senzel some really good at-bats today.
We're to the point in Nick Senzel's career where we're looking at, okay, he had a good at bat and didn't strike out or didn't look poor at the plate. They don't all hit. I don't know what's going to happen with Nick Senzel, but the Reds have a lot of shortstops who aren't all going to play shortstop coming up through their system, and Matt McClain and Elly De La Cruz are getting real close. Somebody's got to move to second, and somebody's probably going to move to third. And if Barrero can continue to look better at the plate as he has his walk rate is way up. His strikeout rate is way up. Speaking of talking about approaches at the plate, he's looked a lot better this year. So if he can continue to progress, again, back to that learning, we need to learn what Jose Barrero is. One, what position can he play? Can he play center field? Can he play shortstop? I mean, can he play shortstop and hit like they need him to? They need to learn what they have, because with all these middle infielders coming up, they got to do something with that backlog.
So Ken mentioned Jose Barrero, guys. You know what that means.
Just let your soul go. Just let it shine through. Just let your soul, baby.
You can blame Carlos Guevara for that. He put it in my head in the spring training when he tweeted Soul Glow about Jose Barrero. And so now every time it's mentioned on the show, I have to play that. So
bust out the activator.
Yes, absolutely. All natural juices and berries, of course. Yeah. So I think, like you said, so the theme here this season has been just about like, this is a learning lesson. This is a learning situation. Yeah. You mentioned Matt McClain. Oh my God. I love Matt McClain. I am so excited about Matt McClain. The inside the park home run the other day, going 4 for 4. Bro, I'm a fan. I'm stoked.
I'll admit, I was out on Matt McClain, and I've got receipts. I don't delete tweets from my old takes exposed. I was out on McLean after last year hitting in the 230s. He went to the Arizona Fall League. He and Marte both struggled in the Fall League, but he hit the cover off the ball in spring training. Sending him to Louisville was the right thing to do, and he had a hot start. He had an 0 for 20 slump at one point, but then his last few games, I think his OPS is still over 900, even with an over 20. I mean, whether he's ready yet, I don't know. Where's he going to play? He's been playing shortstop in Louisville. My conspiracy theory is he's ready just about the time that Ellie De La Cruz is about ready to resume his role in the starting lineup. He's resumed baseball activities, and they're not going to rush a hamstring. We've seen repeatedly with Jonathan India, with other players, what happens when you try to rush a hamstring. You tweak it again, and they're out longer. Give him his time. He's going to be fine. He's one of the youngest players in AAA at 21?
Yeah.
Cruz. So don't rush him. Get that hamstring settled. Give McLean time to figure out what he is, and then bring up McLean when Ellie's ready.
It's Carrick Melvin, who also Carrick is like the best for minor league information, by the way. He can tell you everything going on with everybody.
Oh, yeah. I recognize the name.
Yeah.
From Facebook.
How do the new rules affect Steer if he places top 3 in Rookie of the Year voting? I knew we wouldn't get an extra pick because he's not a top 100 prospect. Do we lose a year of control? I honestly don't know. I feel bad that I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think so, because he was up last year. He was up in September of last year, but didn't exceed rookie
Right.
thresholds. I don't know officially. That's a good question. And I only thought no, I don't know. I don't want to speak out of turn.
Yeah. I'm not for certain either. But it's something
Yep.
I'll look up and I'll get for the next episode.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely interesting. So should we just dive into today? Should we just get it out of the just air out all of have our Festivus of the Sunday Phillies
Have our
matinee game?
Festivus. Well,
Yeah.
again, this season's about learning. What we've learned is that Luis Cessa is not a starting pitcher.
Right. Absolutely.
Can he be a bullpen pitcher? He maybe. I'll admit that I was intrigued by his run through the rotation last year. He had some decent numbers, but they aren't as good as what the team needs. He's not a starting pitcher. But with Overton on the DL with a swollen ERA, we've got Luke Weaver. We're all looking to Luke Weaver as the savior. Is that where we've come to?
I don't know. I mean, Josh Harrison pitched for the Phillies yesterday. Could they make a move for him?
Can they make a move for Josh Harrison? Position player pitching.
Bearcats fans would be stoked.
There you go.
Yeah.
Former broadcasters might be stoked.
Yeah. 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 Did you know that Kyle Schwarber's from Middletown?
No, I had not heard that.
Bro, so hear me out. From Middletown. Went to Indiana.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Big stories. Big stories. They haven't mentioned the ballpark in 3 innings. So let's see. Weaver and Stout, Cincinnati, Abbott to Louisville, and Florida, Chattanooga. I am 1,000% all on the Brant Stout to Cincinnati bandwagon. I'm all for it.
I don't. So the question is, who makes Ace's next start?
I guess it would be because he's supposed to start Saturday in Pittsburgh, which we'll get to in a slide.
Versus
no,
Pittsburgh, you might just let him go.
Yeah, you might just, because I think they're throwing like Mitch Keller in that game. So you probably feel decent about your chances there.
Yeah, Mitch Keller is supposed to have a resurgence this year, and he has not looked as good yet as he did at the end of last season. He was lights out at the end of last season. So maybe it's some of the, not that Mitch Keller is Hunter Green, but Mitch Keller was supposed to be an ace. So maybe he's got a little bit of slow start in him too.
Yeah.
And if the Reds can take advantage of that, all power to him.
It's because he went to a shithole franchise in a shithole city.
Ooh.
Yeah. I am all for being public enemy number 1 in Pittsburgh, Ken. You'll find this out very quickly.
Yasiel Puig was good for something. He did try to fight the entire team.
That's right. That's right. So let me kind of go through here real quick. So yes, today, obviously, like you said, we learned Luis Cessa is not a starting
Yeah.
pitcher. I was almost on the verge of like, look, Tampa Bay's coming to town. I was almost on the verge of like, I throw him out for 5 innings at this point. Whatever. Like, you're not coming back. But he threw 3, and he still gave it 2 more runs after the 9-0. Fernando Cruz threw a couple innings. So it wasn't ideal, to say the least. Like I said, if we're looking for one thing from this game, it's the fact that I can say Nick Senzel had some good at-bats. I
There you go.
try to give up
Hey.
hope. I've tried to quit Nick Senzel, and I can't. I'm sorry, I just can't.
Kevin Newman had a hit and an RBI.
Yeah.
So we have that going for us, which is nice.
Yeah. Jose Abreu played center field today. So there was that. Luke Maley got 2 hits.
Luke Maley got a couple of hits.
Yeah. I like the 3 catcher thing. I'm not going to lie. I know a lot of people think it's silly. I like it.
Well, they really have 2.5 because we know
Yeah.
Stevenson's going to play a lot of DH and a lot of first base. And if you want to get into the Votto thing, we know he's going to be playing a lot of first base a lot longer.
Yeah. That's true.
For those who hadn't heard, Votto is not coming back anytime soon. He was nearing the end of his 20-day rehab. You max out at 20 days in the minors, so he had to come back to Cincinnati. He won't be activated. He's going to continue his rehab in Cincinnati. And then the talk is next week when he's eligible again, he can start another rehab start in Louisville. Stint, excuse me. He said his swing just doesn't it's just not there, I think, is what the terminology he used. So he's been a notoriously slow starter in his career anyway. His OPS in March and April is under 900 for his career, which for any mere mortal,
Right.
you would think, okay, that's fine, but not for Joey Votto. So maybe he's waiting for the weather to heat up. Maybe he still does lack some strength. If you saw the stitches on his arm going around Twitter the last day or so from his surgery last year, there was some significant damage to his bicep and his shoulder. So it's not easy. Maybe he is still building the strength back in that bat speed. And at 39, you're not going to heal. He'll be 40 in September. At 39, you're not going to heal as fast as you did when you're 23.
It's true. Yeah, so important to mention, you mentioned obviously the rules there. Tony Santillan also returned from a rehab assignment, not activated to the Major League roster yet. Very similar circumstance. So I assume, who else is there? I saw TJ Antone said his elbow's feeling good again. I don't think that means he'll pitch, next week,
Soon.
but right. Yeah.
I'm on the same page with Sims and Antone. They're nice names, but until they come back and do it in a major league game, I know Sims is close and Sims could be activated as soon as this week. But for somebody who's pitched 1 inning in the last year and a half or so, forgive me if I don't have that up, but he has not had a great track record of health.
Right.
So 6 games in 2022 with a 9.45 ERA. So obviously he wasn't healthy for those 6 games because we know what Lucas Sims can do. If he's healthy now and he can contribute, I'm all for it because no one's going to be wringing their hands over who to get rid of in the bullpen.
No.
So
Yeah, I talked about that a couple weeks ago. We had Jordan Schusterman from Cespedes Barbecue on. He's a buddy of the program, and we were talking about
he's a great follow. Yeah.
We were laughing at the fact that people were like, "Well, the Mets are going to trade for Alexis Diaz because he's Edwin's brother." Like that was literally like the whole context of the whole conversation of why they would trade for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm not saying they wouldn't trade for him, but it'll be for far more reasons
Sure.
than their siblings. Like,
yes.
But yeah.
Well, if they were willing to throw back Brett Beatty,
I'm in.
I would buy. I would buy Diaz the plane ticket to New York if Brett Beatty was coming back. Who actually
got called up?
I heard that. He's getting called up tomorrow to play versus LA. I don't know if that's in LA or in New York, but that kid's gonna be good.
I'm very excited about Brett Beatty. Got quite a few rookie cards, a couple Bowmans, and gonna go from value. I'm thinking. All right, folks. Before we get to the week coming up, this is of course time for Late Night Reds Trivia. Does you know, if you are the first to answer in the YouTube comments tonight, the correct answer to our trivia question, you will be receiving a prize, which Doc, I found out I still owe yours. I'll get that out today. Well, tomorrow, because it's late night, obviously. But Ken, it's the 20th anniversary this week at Great American Ballpark, our beautiful stadium that we've both are former or current season ticket holders to, me being the former, you being the current. And I wanted to bring us one of the greatest moments in ballpark history, which of course was Clinchmas 2010. Jay Bruce hits the walk-off home run against the Astros. I was in attendance that night. But the biggest play in the game before that is in the third inning. Drew Stubbs. Remember Drew Stubbs, the center fielder, old former first-round pick from Texas?
I do remember Drew Stubbs.
Yeah, he's not obscure enough to be in our draft later, but obviously, I think was better than advertised here with how people talk about him. But he robs a home run in the third inning, a 2-run home run in the third inning when the Reds are down 2-1, which would have made the score 4-1. Who was the batter who hit that ball that Drew Stubbs robbed? Answer will be given at the end of the show. First person to answer the YouTube trivia question will get the prizes here at the end. Let's talk about that real quick. I didn't put that in the slide, but we'll get to there. Since, 20th anniversary of GBP. Obviously, it's not seen as much winning as we'd like to in that stadium, but still a lot of great moments, whether it be the Clinchmas, 2012 clinching division, home run derby with Todd Frazier, Homer Bailey's second no-hitter. What are some of your favorite moments in the ballpark's history?
A couple of big opening days. The Adam Dunn, Joe Randa opening day in I think 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Then Ramon Hernandez after the big division clinching season in 2010 to come back on opening day 2011 and hit the walk-off 3-run home run off the Brewers. That was really exciting. I was in the park for both of those. I was in the longer story on Joe Randa. I was actually in my car. I had been to opening day. I was driving to class and I heard it on the radio. I was not in the park for the home run for Joe Randa's home run, and I'm a bit disappointed about it. But in the park for Todd Frazier, that was electric to have the hometown player win the home run derby. Other magic moments, you mentioned Homer Bailey.
I was at that game.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
But I was also at Jake Arrieta's no-hitter at Great American Ballpark. That was not as awesome. Yeah.
Oof. Yeah. Those are the ones. Yeah. The opening day of Ramon Hernandez and Joe Randa jump off the page. Obviously, anything around the All-Star game was fun. That was.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was
every
awesome.
30 or so years you get an All-Star game, so that was cool. Yeah.
So yeah, you mentioned the Ramon Hernandez homer. I just lost my dad in December. I've talked about this a little bit on the show, and it was one of the.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. I went to that. That's the only opening day I ever went to with my dad. So that's like an amazing moment. I actually just sent the ticket stub to PSA to get graded. I don't really care what it comes back as far as like the score. Like I just want to have it slabbed and protected. because it's the only opening day my dad and I went to together, and it just was like the one where they came back down 4 runs. It's not even Ramon Hernandez. It's Brandon Phillips in the 8th inning hits a home run to bring him in within 3, and the 9th inning happens, where just everything starts rolling, and he wins the game. So it's one of my favorite games ever. We mentioned Drew Stubbs earlier. First Sunday night baseball game at Great American Ballpark history. He hits the walk-off against the Braves. That was my birthday.
Oh, very cool.
My 22nd birthday. It was our first game, the first Reds home Sunday night baseball game, I think, since the 90s. So,
Oh, wow. That's
yeah,
cool.
that was awesome.
Speaking of walk-offs, there were back-to-back from Devin Mesoraco and Shin
Shoo!
Chu in 2013 off of Craig Kimbrell, I think.
Yeah, that's a big
to
one.
go back-to-back. That was a cool moment.
Yeah, it's been a cool. I love the stadium. I know you do too. Obviously.
Oh yeah.
It's just nothing like it. So I could talk about Great American Ballpark memories forever. But let's get to what's coming up. So of course we're getting a visit these next 3 days from the Tampa Bay Rays, who just took their first loss of the season this weekend. Started off the year 13-0. And I don't know if this is 1,000% accurate. I got this off NBC Sports, but with the Rays, they change everything all the time. So we'll see if these are right.
I think Springs is injured.
Yeah, Springs is injured.
Yeah. So that TBD is probably right.
Yeah. So Hunter Green will be going against Jalen Beeks tomorrow. Jalen Beeks, I don't really know a whole lot on. Nick Lodolo, we're still waiting to see who's going to fill in for Springs. What were you saying? I'm sorry, Ken.
Nope.
Oh, okay. And then Wednesday, our savior, Luke Weaver, makes his 2023 debut to go against Drew Rasmussen. I couldn't make it to any games. I'm kind of bummed because I really want to see Wander Franco play. I love Wander Franco. But
I'll be there Tuesday to see Lodolo.
Nice.
He's so good. I'm so excited for him. There's another 10 spot I put down at plus 4,000 for him to win the Cy Young. Those odds have come way down too with his first 3 starts. He's looked so good. I always thought he had the highest floor of the Reds prospects coming up, but he might have the highest ceiling too with that kind of Chris Sale 3/4.
Yeah,
man, that's dirty, and that's hard to hit if you're a lefty.
I assume you saw the Fangraphs article.
I did, yes.
Yeah. Nick Lodolo is Randy Johnson.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe not at 101,
right? But
yeah, he's still pumping it in there at what, 94, 95, 96. Touching 96. It's just to see a guy get hit in the foot and still swing at the pitch is hilarious.
I know.
That devastating breaking ball is awesome. It's so much fun.
I'll tell you what was really impressive. It wasn't just the fact that it was the Phillies who were the defending National League champions. It's the fact that he saw them last week and pitched against them again on Thursday and knew that they were going to make adjustments. So he made adjustments to follow that.
He's faced them 4 times already in his career.
Yeah, I think it's just like 26 inning against them already.
He faced them twice last year in his limited appearances. So they've seen him. The book is out on him at least for the Phillies, and he still continues to just smoke them.
Yeah, he's awesome, dude. I'm such a fan. And of course, next week we'll see how this goes. There's that Friday game. But Thursday, Graham Ashcraft goes against Ronzi Contreras. I forgot to put Graham Ashcraft's stats, but they're really good. It was so good that we left it blank. Friday, Luis Cessa, if he pitches the game, he may also be on the IL, the swollen ERA. Going against Mitch Keller. Saturday, you've got Hunter Green versus Rich Hill. I feel really good about the Reds' chances in that game. And then Sunday, you've got Nick Lodolo against Vince Velasquez. So, interesting week. Gosh, I can't tell you. It feels like this will be 2 weeks without an off day for them. So,
yeah, they have a stretch of 20 some straight games without an off day. They have a
Yeah.
long stretch, so they need to keep that. They need to keep that bullpen rested with some long outings. So Ashcraft is 2-0 with a 1.42 ERA.
Perfect. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate
Yep.
you filling it for me there. Oh God, yeah, because what a weird schedule. You go to Philly, you have Philly and Tampa, you go to Pittsburgh for 4, and then you come home for Texas for 3, then you're off, and then you have the Oakland San Diego trip. Super random.
They need to make some headway once the Rays series is out of the way. They need to make some headway against the White Sox and the Pirates and the A's. Now
Yeah.
that Mets series looks tough getting in the way. That's coming up in early May. But facing the Braves, Phillies, and Rays back to back is a tough schedule. And 6-9 is less than ideal, but a year ago when they were 3-12,
Right.
they're better than they were. And coming in today, they actually had a positive run differential. Now getting shellacked 14-3 will flip that on its head, but they had a positive run differential coming into to today.
They did. Yeah, it was I don't know. They're three days a week. They're incredibly fun to watch. 3 games a week. They're like a great baseball team to enjoy to sit down and watch play. I'm not saying they're a very good team on the field, but 3 days a week they're worth watching.
Well, one of the things we are, again, back to that theme of learning. We're learning they have 3 studs at the top of the rotation, and they're learning that what was India? Was India the rookie of the year, or was India the guy who tried to hit home runs and got injured and couldn't hit? Well, he's looking a lot like the rookie of the year this year. What is Spencer Steer? Spencer Steer came up and didn't exactly have a great September. Is he this prospect that was worth trading Tyler Mahle? Well, at 298, 400, 511 coming into today, yeah, he's looked great. What's TJ Friedel? He kind of languished in the minors developing, but had a great, and him and Fraley both. They had a couple of rough years, and then at the end of last year came on like gangbusters. So were they this high-end outfielder, at least versus right-handed pitching, who was most of it, or were they just kind of the 700 OPS that they were earlier in their career? Well, through 15 games at least, a 940 OPS and an 889 OPS is pretty darn good. So we're learning, yes, that's what they have going into next year. They do have some elite talent, and they have fewer holes to fill. The outfield coming into this year, there were some huge question marks. Friedel wasn't even on a lot of radars. They signed Will Myers to be an outfielder because they really didn't have much else. They hoped Jake Fraley would be good, but they really didn't know. So I'm pleased with what I've seen through 15 games.
Yeah, I am too. I think 6-9 right now. I think, like you said, you're starting to see this team at least have an identity of the future. This is what life's going to look like without Joey Votto, whenever that day comes, whether it's this next season, whether he plays another year on a team-friendly contract. We don't know. Do we know? Everything's going to kind of be in there. But, yeah, Jonathan India, those 3 starters. Tyler Stevenson, I know we haven't seen him show power yet, but he hits. He gets on base. If power comes from that, great. If not, I'm cool.
If he went 290, 375, 420, 425, I don't need a whole lot of power from him. I'm not a big I need power from certain parts of the order.
Same.
My goal is don't make outs. Get on base, don't get out. And the Reds are doing that. They're putting good at bats. They have high on base, up and down, well, at the top of the lineup at least, with Fraley, Friedel, India, Stevenson. Now, we need to learn who can extend that on base, who can do that, have those good at bats down the lineup. Can it be a Jose Barrero? Can it be a Nick Senzel? or do they need to bring up a Matt McLain to have that on base? Who he's done the same thing. His on base and his plate approach are very, very advanced. Joey Votto had glowing reviews of Matt McLain a week or so ago. I've done a 180 on McLain. I was out after the Arizona Fall League, and he showed me. Old takes exposed.
So Pat Magooch, who just joined us, big friend of the program, said, "Okay, Billy Bean, we talked about that. You're damn right. We're trading for David Justice. We're getting Jeremy Giambi. So we're going all in. Yeah, don't
he
make
gets on
outs.
base.
Yeah,
Don't make
gets on
outs.
base.
Outs are the currency of baseball. You get 27 of them. Don't give them away. Don't bunt. If Frio likes to bunt for hits, okay, maybe it draws the infield in, but don't sacrifice bunt. Don't give away outs.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm 1,000% with you. All right, Ken, this is the reason we brought you on. It's that time. So,
Let's rock
as you guys
and
know,
roll.
like we said, Ken is the best Twitter account for obscure X-Reds. So this is how this is going to go. Ken and I are going to go back and forth to pick our fantasy team of obscure former Reds that we've each drawn up. So, disclaimer before we get into this. Shin-Soo Choo, Greg Vaughn, Ron Gant, not mentioned. Yes, they were only here a short time, but they were absolutely incredible their time they were here. So I feel like they're not obscure enough, so I did not list those guys. I don't know if you did or not, but
I didn't. Well, let me hit that because part of I have three themes to my Twitter account. One is obscure former Reds, but the other two are Reds cameos. So Reds cameos to me are people who played less than a year less with the Reds and were famous. So those are the Ron Gants and the Greg Vaughns and the Shin-Soo Choos. So hashtag if you search hashtag Reds cameos, you'll see a bunch of tweets from me with that hashtag. So there's a lot of fun there. And then Reds killers are the other. Reds killers are people who for some reason just excel against the Reds. And I don't include people like Albert Pujols who just killed everybody. I include people like Bill Hall and Ricky Weeks and Jason Bay and Xavier Nady, Ian Happ, who have a 700 OPS against everyone else and all of a sudden have an 1100 OPS against the Reds. So search those three hashtags and you'll find a lot of good content from me. But sorry for the digression. Let's get into it with catcher. The number one overall player on my board is, of course, Ryan LaVarnway. Obviously, his 2 home run, double 6 RBI game. I have that specific jersey that he wore for that game hanging in my closet. I bought it from Reds Fest. Jamie has offered to autograph it for me, so I need to sync up with her and have it autographed. Shout out to Jamie LaVarnway, Ryan's wife. His 1038 career OPS for the Reds is in the top 10 all time. So at catcher at a premium position, I got to take that with that kind of OPS. He's my number one pick.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I knew you would go there. So that's why I was like, I'm going to make sure Ken picks first.
Yeah, that's a little obvious.
Yeah. But for those who know you, obviously, Mike, I went with a different catcher for a different reason, because it was more just I wanted to have a laugh. And I was through a lot of names here, but I ended up going with backup catcher of the 1999 Cincinnati Reds, Brian Johnson. I don't know how many people necessarily remember Brian Johnson, but this is the guy who went on ESPN and full on just exposed Barry Bonds. Like full on, because he was teammates with the Giants, was asked, did you see Barry Bonds do steroids, basically? And he was like making faces, like basically saying like, yeah, I did. And I'm telling you the facts. Like, so
wow.
Here are the other names I considered, though. I knew LaVarnway was your only. So Kelly Stinnett.
Nice.
Deoner Navarro. Remember, he was with the team for like a month in 2012, and he was good.
Oh.
And Paul Bacco.
Paul Bacco. He is actually a Reds killer. He was with the Cubs. I couldn't take Bacco because Bacco hit the ball that Ken Griffey tore his hamstring on dislocated his shoulder, diving in center field.
That's right.
Yeah. Also on my board was Corky Miller. Is he obscure? Because he's such a fan favorite that maybe he's not really obscure. And then Tim Fedorovich, who, as far as I know, he has the highest OPS in Reds history at 1429. He has a career slash line with the Reds of 333, 429, 1000. Of course, he might not be a qualifying Red with only 7 career plate appearances for the Reds with a home run, a double, and a walk. But obviously that 1429 OPS will play.
Yeah, I like it. All right, let's go to first base here. Would you go for first base?
I went with Jorge Cantu.
Nice.
I was such a Jorge Cantu fan in 2007, I think. Over a middling of at-bats, more than 100, I believe. He had an 874 OPS and a 121 OPS plus. He came over from the Rays. Unfortunately, there just wasn't a spot. There wasn't a spot on the team in 2008 because the Reds were hugging prospects. Some guy named Vada was coming up, and they weren't willing to give the veteran Cantu a spot on the team. So I can be a little bitter about that. But Jorge Cantu, I was a big fan of him when he was on the team for a short stint in August and September.
Nice. That's a good one. That's definitely better what I went. I went for a Selly one again. At first base, I went from the 1994 and 1995 Reds. He played a total of 49 games and had just 117 plate appearances in those 2 combined years. A man they call Brian Hunter.
Brian, oh yeah. I considered putting him on my board, but didn't. Oh yeah, I remember Brian Hunter.
I was really close to saying Paul Konerko because he played like 4 games for the Reds before he was incredible at the White Sox. But I thought Brian Hunter would be a good laugh.
I can see Paul Konerko, when a guy hits 429 home runs or whatever it is in the majors, I consider him a Reds cameo.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
So
a lot of my picks will be Reds cameos in your eyes then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who else did you have on your board?
I had
Konerko.
I had Konerko, Terry Lee.
Oh yeah.
Jeff Branson, because he was like up and down with the Reds. And
I like Jeff Branson.
I was so close to putting Steven Larkin for his 1 game because it's obviously like a historic, like 2 brothers sets in the infield.
Yes, I considered Pete Rose Jr. for the same thing at first base.
I was thinking about Eduardo Perez, but I was like, I don't know. People were actually might because he's on ESPN now, and yeah. So that was a close one.
So also on my board was Juan Francisco. Juan Francisco hit one of the longest home runs that I've ever seen in Great American Ballpark. He hit it over the Budweiser sign in right field out of the stadium.
I have him on my third base board.
Okay, there you go. DT Cromer had a 122 OPS. And to go super obscure, he might be the most obscure former Red that I've ever come across, is Brandon Allen.
Oh, yeah.
Brandon Allen spent 3 days on the roster to open the 2016 season, I believe. Somebody can correct me in the comments. But he never actually appeared for the Reds, and so you won't find him on that Baseball Reference page because he was DFA'd for fellow obscure former Red Tim Melville.
Cantu is in a sleep music video with the Marlins. Nice.
As a person who made the 25-man roster, so part of it is I want you to have been on the 25-man roster. So spring training invites don't count for obscure former Reds. You have to have been on the 25-man roster, in my opinion.
I like it. I like it. All right, so let's go to second base here. Who you got?
I have Ramon Santiago.
Oh, that's a good one.
So I have Ramon Santiago because this, maybe Joel Luckup could help me out with this one, but he's the only player that I know of who has a walk-off grand slam in his final career at bat.
Oh,
the last day of the season, they went into extra innings against the Pirates, and he had a walk-off grand slam and never played again. So that is the ultimate mic drop in Major League history.
That is literally like guns a-blazing.
So I went with Ramon Santiago.
I love it. I went Ray Almeida.
Oh, yeah, Ray.
So Ray Almeida literally was with the Reds, part of the Reds major league roster for across 4 years. In 4 years, only played 171 games, only had 388 plate appearances, only 1 home run. But here's the amazing thing. 250 of those 388 plate appearances all came in one season.
Oh. Yeah.
The 2003
Has
season.
anyone... Are we sure that Alejo Lopez isn't Ray Almedo's illegitimate son?
Oh, we're not.
I don't have any conspiracy theories. I'm just saying they both have the same game and they're both about 5'6".
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
You're losing me on the camera. Sorry. There we go.
Yeah. But also my board, Bill Doran. He was part of a World Series team, signing of
Yep.
Juan Samuel.
Juan Samuel.
Yeah.
Former Philly. Former Dodger.
Someone in your eyes would be a Reds cameo, and Tony Womack.
Ooh. Did he win a World Series with the
Diamondbacks?
Diamondbacks?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to be obscure when you have when you're a starter on a World Series winning team.
Yeah. And my last one was Juan Castro.
Oh, Juan Castro, absolutely. Manos de Oro, Hands of Gold.
That's right.
Also on my board was maybe my very first favorite obscure former Red is Luis Quinones. I still don't know where he is. I'm hoping somebody can tell me where's Quinones, but he did not make my pick after Ramon Santiago.
Understandable. This was the hardest position for me because the Reds' history of shortstops, like in our lifetime, it's been like Larkin forever. Zach Kozar had a really long tenure. And of course, now it's like, there's definitely been like the Felipe Lopez's and guys like that. But I literally had to like look through and I was cracking up at the early 2010s when they were competitive and they were good every year for that 3 or 4 year stretch. The random ass dudes who were like the second shortstop behind like Giannis and people like that. So I'm curious where you went with this, and I'll give you mine.
I went with Wilson Valdez.
Oh my God, I had Wilson Valdez too.
So I went with Wilson Valdez because when he was with the Phillies in 2011, I think.
Yep, same reason.
If you need him, he can pitch the 19th inning and give you a win. The Reds had a 19-inning game in 2011 in May. This is not the Aaron Harang game because I confused those two. This was in Philly. The Reds played 19 innings. Wilson Valdez pitched to the 19th inning and got a win.
Yep.
And I was like, well, he can pick it at shortstop, and if you need him in a pinch, he can throw the last inning. He can be a closer.
Yeah, because I remember that game so well because Roy Halladay started for the Phillies that day. And we're all like on Twitter at the time, like, what happens if each team runs out of pitchers? Because I think like Carlos Fisher threw like 7 innings for us that game. Like he basically had a start in that game. Yeah. And I guess like John Fay was like, the Phillies can use him if they run out of pitchers. They can bring Roy Halladay back in. And I was like, that's the weirdest thing I ever heard. It was also during that stretch when it was that 2011 May Jay Bruce stretch, which is probably like the greatest individual month for a baseball player of all time. I don't have the facts to prove that in front of me, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that was.
We'll go with it.
Yeah. So if you took Wilson Valdez, who I was 1,000% going to take.
That's amazing.
I know. I will go with a guy who played literally 8 games for the Cincinnati Reds before becoming a Major League All-Star at other places. So this would be a cameo in your eyes. Didi Gregorius.
Oh, yeah. Didi is definitely a cameo in my eyes. Yeah, he came up in 2012 and had a cup of coffee.
Yep. They got traded to Arizona.
Before being traded for Chu.
Yeah.
Well, he was in the Chu trade with
Stubbs.
Yeah. Oh, with Stubbs. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. To Cleveland. And Didi went to Arizona. Yeah.
I forgot that that was the 3-way trade. But So
Yeah,
because
that
my
was a
other my
tweet.
other my other names were laughing at that mid 2010s era. Orlando Cabrera,
Yep.
Edgar Renteria, the year before was the World Series MVP for the Giants and came to the Reds in 2011.
It's so bad.
I know. And Wilson Valdez, who you picked. So
My other pick was Jeff Keppinger. I
that's my
was a
dog.
big fan of Jeff Keppinger. He played for Houston, he played for Cincinnati, and he had a modern day plate approach 15 years ago. Now, he wasn't the most skilled hitter, but he had a decent batting average. He didn't hit for a lot of power, but he had a decent batting average and had an advanced, what we would call today, an advanced plate approach. And so I was always a big Jeff Keppinger fan. I was wanted him to be better than he ended up being. But yeah, Jeff Keppinger was my other shortstop.
Nice. I like it. That brings us to third base. We're going to round out the infield here.
Okay. So I'm picking Brandon Larson because this time he's going to break out. He may be 30, he may be 48 now, but this time he's going to break out. For those of you too young to remember Brandon Larson, he was a number one or first round pick out of LSU, College World
97.
Series hero in 97. And he was always the next big thing coming up because the Reds had some flop picks before him. The famous Chad Mottola pick instead of Derek Jeter. They didn't have a whole lot of picks in the 90s, which is why those 2001 to 2005 teams weren't very good because their drafts weren't very good. So Brandon Larson was the next big thing. He came up, I think, 2 or 3 years in a row, and every time it was the best shape of his life. Cliche. This time he's going to break out, and of course he never did.
Yeah. So would you had mentioned his name to me? I told you so. The first video game I ever had on Sony PlayStation was Triple Play 98, and that was the first year I ever remembered the MLB draft. So I would always create Brandon Larson and put him in the game, and I made him like,
That's amazing.
100 contact, 100 power. Like he did not do either of those things. So
negative.
Yeah. As you mentioned my third baseman. You mentioned my third baseman earlier. I went with Juan Francisco, and different reason you did. I do definitely remember the Budweiser home run. But Juan Francisco was traded to the Braves for J.J. Hoover, who came to the Reds, as we know. 2 years after the trade, Juan Francisco hits a grand slam at Great American Ballpark off of J.J. Hoover.
J.J. Hoover.
So he came back to bite us. Who
coincidentally, J.J. Hoover is coincidentally also in my jersey collection.
I think he's in my signed ball collection. It might be like close to your jersey
Nice.
collection as far as this randomness. But like Francisco was kind of like the second coming of Vladimir Valentin, where it's like he can hit a ball 700 feet. Watch out. Don't throw him this, but he's got to make contact. So yeah, there was that.
Spoiler alert. So also on my board, third base was Darnell Coles. He was a Tiger for a while. Had a short stint in 92 with the Reds, but 312 batting average, 482 slugging. I mean, a 122 OPS plus. I mean, that's a good run that'll play. Yeah. And then Craig Worthington in 1995 had a cup of coffee with the Reds, 278, 350, 500 for an 850 OPS. I thought about Willie Green. I was like, I don't know if he's obscure enough. He was one of the next big things too.
Yep. I was at Willie Green's Grand Slam.
His one Grand Slam.
I was there.
That's amazing.
Yeah. My names included Adam Rosales because everyone here just loved the hell out of him. He was just all right. Like he wasn't incredible. And backup third baseman for the 2004 Cincinnati Reds, Tim Hummel.
Oh yeah, Tim Hummel, absolutely Tim Hummel.
Yeah,
Yep.
was
Yeah,
something.
he was something. If I remember, Adam Rosales had the fastest sprint speed on a home run around the bases.
Yep.
Always bet the under on that trot time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so 3 outfielders. Do you just want to go 1, 2, 3, and I'll go 1, 2, 3, or do you want to go back and forth still?
No, I can go 1, 2, 3. That's fine.
Okay.
So, left field is Mark Sweeney.
Nice.
In 35 career plate appearances with the Reds, has a 1074 OPS. So obviously the leader on the team. My outfield's pretty stacked. So careful.
Mine too.
Well, then let's go back and forth because we might have some of the same guys. So who do you got in left field?
I got right said Fred Lewis for his 81 games with the Cincinnati Reds in 2011.
Fred Lewis. I actually saw somebody in a Fred Lewis jersey and took a picture of it a bunch of years ago.
I went to a game. I don't know. This is so hard to remember probably if you're not a lunatic like me. There was a game in 2011. It was like a makeup. It was Cinco de Mayo 2011. It was a makeup game that they like rescheduled for the afternoon. There's probably 100 people in the stands, and Fred Lewis hit this like tank right over my head. And I was like, all right, he's my dog now. So
there you go. So I did not have Fred Lewis. I did have in my left field, I did have Russell Branyan.
nice.
Russell Branyan played for 10 or 11 different teams. He had a really long career. He was never a stud with any of them, but he always seemed to hit mammoth home runs.
Mm-hmm.
He had 194 home runs for 10 different teams. That's a lot of home runs in the majors for a journeyman. So kudos to him. He actually had a 112 OPS plus for the Reds, so better than league average as a pinch hitter and a backup first baseman. So he did play some outfield for the Reds. So I felt okay with including him, even though he was primarily a first baseman.
I like it. I'll take it. All right. So in this case, we'll go center field. Who did you have at center field?
Center field, you hit on him earlier. The home run champion of Japan, Vladimir Valentin.
Nice.
I always thought he was Willie Mo Pena's evil twin.
Yeah.
He never saw a slider because they all looked like fastballs to him. But he went to Japan. He hit 300 home runs in Japan with a 917 career OPS over a pretty long career. So kudos to him for making a career in Japan. Hopefully Aquino, who is in that same mold of Willie Mo Pena and Vladimir Valentin and Juan Francisco. Hopefully Aquino can go to Korea? Is that where he is, or is he in Japan?
I think it's in Japan.
Anyway,
He's in Japan.
Okay. Hopefully Aquino can go to Japan and have a good season too. So, my center fielder, I might not have the best, most athletic outfield, but we're going to hit a lot of home runs.
Yeah, I like it. My one wish for Aquino in Japan is that he plays against Trevor Bauer and hits a tank off of him. That's all I ask. Yeah, that's all I ask. Okay, so I'm kind of changing strategy here because of the conversation we had. My center fielder, also from 2013 team, who literally played just one full year in the majors, and all his whole season was with the Reds. Derek Robinson.
Oh, Derek Robinson.
Go ahead. Sorry. I said I will never ever forget when they're playing against the Brewers in Milwaukee, and he legs out a triple, turning the corner for an inside the park home run and gets thrown out the plate. I'll never forget it.
Pat Maguch is asking about Travis Jankowski. He is my defensive replacement.
Oh, that's a good one. It's a good one.
Does Ryan Madson count? Because
never pitched a game for the Reds.
Never pitched a game because he blew his elbow or shoulder out.
Right.
So
I'd
maybe
count
a
him.
Reds cameo because he was a really good major league pitcher for a long time.
Yeah, he was.
Dilson Herrera. Dilson Herrera did not make my team, but he is also, Pat Magooch gets a shout out for Dilson Herrera
Yeah,
because Dilson is also part of the jersey collection. I have a number 15 spring training jersey from Dilson.
nice. So that brings us to right field. I kind of cheated
Right
on
field.
this.
My right fielder has a career 1064 OPS with the Reds. Dude can mash for 11 at-bats in 2011. Dennis Phipps.
I forgot about Dennis Phipps. Oh my God.
Dennis Phipps. Yep. I think he was 4 for 11 or something for his career. And just an absurd OPS if you eliminate sample size.
Yeah. Dennis Phipps. God, I thought he was going to be so good. I was like very high on the Dennis Phipps train.
Prospect, athletic, right fielder, could throw, but no.
All right, so I'm cheating here. I'm not even going to lie.
Okay.
This would go under Reds cameos for you. But this is a guy who literally spent half a season with Cincinnati, was teammates with Ken Griffey Jr., was the first trade piece to get Ken Griffey Jr. when they got it from the Colorado
Matt Cameron.
Rockies, Dante Bichette.
Oh, Dante Bichette. Yes, he was awful for I think he rivaled Tommy Pham for could not get a hit in a Reds uniform. I think he went almost a month without a hit.
Yeah, but he still ended up with like 16 home runs in that very short time of not like it was like the weirdest stretch. So they traded him to Boston. Halfway through the 1 year they had him. He was the same with the Red Sox for 2 years after that, weirdly enough. So I was so close to putting. He came out. What's that?
No, he spent all those years in Colorado with the Blake Street Bombers with Galarraga and Bichette, and the other names are escaping me off the top of my head. But Larry Walker, and just you get him out of the thin air, and the ball starts to spin a little more. And he was also 38 or 39. Mm-hmm. Someone in the comments can correct me when he got here, and so he was well past his prime, aging like a warm glass of milk.
Yeah. My other two names were I had to laugh because these were guys who were obviously incredible elsewhere and came here and just had like really short stints, both under 30 games. 97, Ruben Sierra. Part of the 97 Reds. It was weird because he was like it looked like he was in the twilight of his career. It looked like it was over. And then he leaves Cincinnati and goes to Seattle and is like really, really good again for a year.
Yeah.
And then I had to do it because I think we'll laugh about this in 10 years. I put Matt Kemp on my potential list because we're always going to be like, remember when Matt Kemp played 20 games for the Cincinnati Reds?
Never heard of him. He never played for the Reds. So also in my outfield, Robin Jennings.
Nice.
A short stint in 2001, 286, 329, 519. I mean, so again, sample size be damned in an obscure former Reds draft.
Absolutely. Sample size. No, this is for the fun of it. This is to make people laugh.
Yep.
This is going to get fun. These last two rounds.
Uh-oh.
God, because the pitchers, like, if we look at the pitchers just from like 2014 to today, in both circumstances, starters and bullpen, this isn't even counting the team's 129-year franchise history before that. This is just like looking at this moment. So we're gonna get some good. We're gonna get some good names here, I assume. So who did you go with as starting pitcher?
I have who I thought was the next big thing in 2004. He had a 2.42 ERA in 2004, and he was going to anchor that 05 rotation with what Jose Acevedo and and Aaron Harang was Luke Hudson.
Luke Hudson.
Yes, I was at 25, I was irrationally high on Luke Hudson in 2004.
Nice. I like that one. I went with the one guy who was not so okay. Let me reiterate this real quick. So if you remember in 2012, none of those guys missed a start. The starting five.
I know who it is.
Yeah. So Latos, Cueto, none of those guys missed a start. But they had a game where they had to play a doubleheader against the Cubs, and this guy pitched a night game. And it was his only start for the Reds. Todd Redmond. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will always remember Todd Redmond being the one guy outside the 5-man rotation to pitch a game for the Reds, and that's in that year.
Yeah. Todd Redmond.
God, 2012 team was so freaking good.
Also on my board was, of course, Matt Maloney, because he shares my birthday. So shout out to January 16th birthdays. Me, Jack Cust, Albert Pujols, Matt Maloney. Obviously, the greatest birthday in baseball history. And
Obviously.
then I debated whether to go here or not. Corey Lytle.
Oh my
Corey
God.
Lytle's on my list. In case you never know, in case the charter flight pilot gets food poisoning, Corey Lytle can take over on my charter flight.
And we just lost all of our listeners for this episode. Okay.
Little dark humor.
I almost put Jason Marquis for the one time he was the opening day starter, and then was like
Jason Marquis
gone.
God.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Oh my God. Please no Jason Marquis. That wasn't that long ago.
I know. Also on my list as potentials were Steve Avery,
Avery.
Osvaldo Fernandez, and Bruce Chen.
Bruce Chen. Yes. Former Oriole, I believe, in Philly.
Yep, and Royal.
Bruce Chen. Wow. There's some great names.
I know. All right, man. So this is where the reliever, because there's been 75,000 of them that have come in and out. So
my reliever is Jake Buchanan.
nah, that's a good one.
Jake Buchanan, in case you need a pinch hitter, the dude's got a career slash line of 500, 667, 500. He's 1 for 2 in his career with a walk.
There you go.
So obviously, he can be the pinch hitter for this team, and he's that staple in the bullpen. So I'm going with Jake Buchanan.
Perfect. I went with the pitching version of Reds Brandon Larson history. One, Ryan Wagner.
Oh, Ryan Wagner. Yes, he is. He is the pitching version of Brandon Larson. And go ahead, give your Ryan Wagner context for our younger listeners.
So Brian Wagner was the Reds' #1 pick in 2002. And this was oh, I'm sorry. I got that wrong. He was the #1 pick in the 2003 draft.
Okay.
So what year did he make his major league debut, you might ask? 2003. So he did the Brandon Finnegan before Brandon Finnegan. So Ryan Wagner, this rookie year, he comes up, throws 17 games for the Reds, and he's really good. 2-0, 166, 21 innings. He's got 25 strikeouts. Like, he can't. You're like, this is the guy. Like, this is the closer of the future.
Stud.
And then from there, it all goes downhill. 49 games the next year with a 4.7. 2005, 42 games with a 6.11, and then gets traded to the Nationals with Austin Kearns and Felipe Lopez for Bill Bray, Royce Clayton, Gary Majewski, who was very close to being on my list, Brendan Harris, and Daryl Thompson.
I think I could have given you all 5 of those names.
Yeah, I think I could have too.
What a trade. What a trade. That's one of those Reds fans days where you look at your best friend at work who you talk Reds with, and you just think, what the heck did we just see? They did what with him and got them back? Oh man, that was brutal.
Yeah. That's up there in worst Reds trades with me for 2000 when they traded Denny Nagel to the Yankees and got back Drew Henson, the Michigan quarterback.
Yeah, they got back the Michigan quarterback. In case they have a flag football game, they got their quarterback.
Yeah.
How many times did they trade Drew? Did they trade Drew Henson back to the Yankees for
They
William
did.
Opeña?
They did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or was it did they trade into
So-
Boston for William Opeña? It was one of the two.
No, William Opeña went to Boston for
That's right, for Bronson.
For Arroyo.
Yeah.
That
So,
was
yeah,
one of
you're
the more
right.
successful trades.
Yeah, that's up
Yeah.
there. I think the Homer Bailey trade's a success, even though none of those guys are on the Reds anymore, just strictly for the sake of they got that contract off their books. So
Yeah.
I'll take that. Yeah. Well,
I think Josiah Gray has some potential.
yeah.
He's looked good in stints. I'm kind of eager to see what he does this year. He wasn't great last year, but I mean, he was one of the better pieces of that trade. So, I mean, cross my fingers. I'm rooting for former Reds farmhands. So we'll go. Shout out to Josiah Gray. Also on my list were Daniel Ray Herrera.
I do.
Yep, 5'6", threw a screwball, left-hander threw a screwball, and if you don't know what a screwball is, it breaks the opposite way of a slider. So a slider will break down and into a right-hander. The screwball will break down and away from a right-hander, and no one throws it, so no one sees it. So he threw about
Carlos
80
threw
miles an hour. I think he had a 82-mile-an-hour fastball and a 70-mile-an-hour screwball. And he was fun to watch. He came over he was the other piece, quote unquote, if you want to say that, to the Josh Hamilton, Edinson Volquez trade.
That's right. He was.
Jumbo Diaz, just because Jumbo Diaz was awesome.
Yeah. Actually, my best friend is really good friends with Jumbo Diaz.
Nice.
Yeah.
And lastly, again, if you need that pinch hitter role, Micah Owings had 9 home runs and a OPS of 108. I mean, he hit some. If I remember right, he had a pinch hit home run to tie a game in the 9th inning for the Reds. So Micah Owings also made my list, but not as good as Jake Buchanan.
Micah Owings walked so Shohei Ohtani could run, folks. Don't get it twisted. So I had Daniel Ray Herrera, I had Gary Majewski, and my other one was Jordan Smith because I thought Jordan Smith was going to be the closer of the future in in 2010. I was like, this guy has it.
Jordan Spieth, wasn't he in the golf tournament today?
Yeah, there's Jordan Spieth. Yes.
Yeah, yes, I'm kidding.
All right, so before we get out of here,
Awesome.
we got to go bring up. So that's the LNR trivia to honor the 20th anniversary. Who did Drew Stubbs rob of in the last at bat? I mean, the at bat and the clinch miss. Carrick Melvin was the first to answer and got it correct. Carlos Lee.
El
Good old-
Caballo.
He's probably on your Reds killer list, I assume.
He was good. I don't know if he's on my list or not. Berkman's on my list. Man, he was.
Oh God. I remember when they got Jim Edmonds in like September 2010, and I was like, "Oh, good, he won't hit home runs against anymore," and he just turned out to be a total asshole.
Yes, Reds cameos. Who another person who I deny ever played for the Reds were Jim Edmonds and Matt Kemp.
Yeah, I totally understand. All right, guys. Well, with that being said, we're going to wrap up this week's edition of Late Night Reds Talk Live, so you guys can go ahead and get ready to go to work tomorrow. Ken, this was really fun, man. I really appreciate you hanging out with me for about an hour and a half.
Sure.
I got to figure out more clever things to do to have you on, because now that we got this out of the way, I can't blow the load there. We got to find something else to have you on and have some fun with.
Well, sure. Anytime you want to talk Reds, we can do Reds killers. We can do Reds cameos. Those are my 3 main bits. And there are some. We hit on some today with Paul Konerko and Matt Kemp and Jim Edmonds. and Ron Gant, Christy
Cody Ross.
Mathewson, Cody Ross. There are some great Reds cameos who just, again, less than a year or less with the Reds, Greg Vaughn, but there's a long list of them, and you can be like, wow, that guy played for the Reds. Yep, he played for the Reds, and so there are some good names on there.
How can we ever forget Willie Bloomquist, guys? Willie
Bloomquist. Shout out to Mo Egger.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Well, thank you again. As always, if you're not part of the Patreon, go to patreon.com/riverfrontcincy so you can hang out with us every week. We love talking with you guys. Give us a nice solid 5-star review. Follow us on YouTube if you're not already. On behalf of Ken, this is Tim Daniel. Have a good week, and we'll see you all next week.